Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dorian, and today we're diving deep into some absolutely chilling true stories from Reddit. These aren't your typical creepypastas. These are real experiences shared by real people who lived through absolute nightmares. So grab a blanket, turn up the lights, and let's get into some horrifying true Reddit stories. And hey, if you enjoy this content, smash that subscribe button. Please take my advice. Do not ever go solo camping in the woods. I had always wanted to take a solo camping trip. I've watched countless hours of people doing them on YouTube, and after I'd saved up some money, I decided to buy all the gear I needed and headed to the nearby national forest. It was a 5-hour drive to get there, so I set off just after dawn. I listened to a few podcasts and sang my heart out for the rest of the way. The time flew by, especially as I got closer to arriving. The views were breathtaking. The mountains rose from the ground, towering over me. It was almost a frightening sight, but the clear water and falling autumn leaves washed any fear away. I arrived at the parking area just after midday. It was pretty empty, mainly due to it being the middle of the week in October. There were 2 or 3 cars, but it seemed like I would be unlikely to run into anybody, which was fine by me. I'm not really one for people. I like to keep myself to myself, and I would prefer going for a walk surrounded by nature rather than be surrounded by obnoxious drunk people at a bar. I grabbed my backpack, which had pretty much everything I needed in it, and I started my hike into the forest. It was so peaceful. There was no sound of cars or machines, just birds chirping and the wind blowing through the leaves of the trees. The leaves danced to the beat of a non-existent drum, and I found myself just standing there, transfixed by them. Something flew straight past my head, startling me. My heart began to race. I looked up to see a small, elegant swallow perched on a branch. I chuckled to myself and continued on with my hike. After about an hour, I came to a clearing. A vast lake with crystal clear water stood in front of me. I looked out, taking in the majestic scenery. Something made me stop looking. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I had seen someone standing in the tree line about 50 yards back. Sharply turning around, I scanned the trees and couldn't see anything. It was probably another bird, I thought to myself. I hiked on for another few miles and found a small clearing. Huge trees towered over. Pretty orange and yellow leaves lay on the ground. It was as good a place as any, I thought. I grabbed the tent out of my large backpack and got to work setting it up. It was starting to get late by the time I had finished. I decided to make a fire and heat up some tomato soup that I had brought with me. Making the fire was easy. I had been camping with my father many times when I was younger. He would have loved this, the peaceful tranquility surrounded by nature. He once said to me, "Jack, I feel at home in nature, and one day so will you. It's in our blood." He was right. I had never felt more at home than I did sitting there with the fire lit, the sounds of the occasional birds, and the still calmness of the woods. I rustled through my bag and found my phone near the bottom. There was barely any signal out here, but just enough that I had received a message from my sister asking if I had made it safely. I texted her back and set the phone down beside me. It was a little after 10 o'clock, so I decided to turn in for the night. I had another big day of hiking tomorrow. I got into the tent and zipped it up. It was only small, just enough room for one person, but that was all I needed. I had my sleeping bag, a book to read, and a flashlight attached to the top of the tent. I read my book for a while and fell asleep with the book still in hand. I woke up abruptly. I didn't know what it was, but I had a bad feeling in my stomach and shivers burrowed their way through my body. I reached next to me for my phone, but realized I had left it outside when I put it down earlier. I was about to get up and go out to find my phone when I saw a light coming from just inside the tent by the zip. I realized it was my phone. Maybe I had picked it up and it had slipped out of my pocket, I thought, trying to reassure myself. A minute later, the phone chimed. A new message appeared on the screen. It was from an unknown number. My hands began to tremble. I shakily unlocked my phone and opened the message. "I can see you. Why don't you come out and play?" My heart was thumping in my head. I was panicking. I didn't have any weapons with me. The best I could do was hit them with a flashlight, but that was not going to do much damage. I just sat there, not moving a muscle, trying to listen out for whether the person was nearby. Then a new wave of fear washed over me. He must have been in the tent. He picked up the phone and unzipped it. He had to be nearby, or he was before at least. I dialed 911 and told them my situation, making sure to whisper. They said they would dispatch someone immediately, but I knew it would take them hours to get here. The nearest police station was at least 2 hours away, and they would have to walk the rest of the way once they got here. After the call, another text came through from the same unknown number. Don't be scared, the police won't find you, but I can help. I was whispering to the police. They must have been near the tent. I decided I had only one choice, try and outrun them. I'm a pretty fit guy. I go to the gym and hike regularly, so I gave myself a good shot. But the fact of the matter was, I had no idea who this person was. They could have a knife or, worse, a gun. Well, what choice did I have? I had no way of defending myself. I waited a while, trying to build up the courage. The person outside had gone quiet for now, but I knew they were still out there somewhere. I decided I would take my flashlight with me and could either use it as a weapon or maybe try and blind them with the light. I quickly unzipped the tent. I burst out of it and started running. I heard a yell from behind me, a deep, unsettling voice. As I was sprinting away, I turned and looked. The man was chasing me. He looked like he stood much taller than me and wider. He looked more like a bodybuilder, from what I could see. I thought I had the edge on him due to being smaller, but he was surprisingly quick. I checked back again, and this time I could see a metal bat in his hand. He was gaining on me. My legs burned and were screaming at me in pain to stop. I ran and ran for as long as I could, just keeping away from him. It must have been a few miles before I saw the flashing blue and white lights of the police cruiser. I looked back and the man chasing me had stopped. I couldn't see him anymore. I ran over to the police officers and pretty much collapsed on the floor. I told them what had happened and they radioed for more units. They put me in the back of the police cruiser and waited for backup. After what seemed like an eternity, 2 other cruisers pulled up and I was taken back to the station. I had already given my statement while waiting, but they just wanted to confirm a few details back at the station. That was a few days ago. I was so relieved to get back and relax. I have never been so scared in my life. I think my heart only just stopped racing. They haven't found the guy yet. They searched the whole forest with no luck. I am back at home now, but I just realized he had my phone outside the tent. He could know where I live. It's nighttime now. I just called the police, but I heard a thud downstairs. I live alone. Okay, hold up. So this guy goes solo camping, gets stalked by some psycho with a baseball bat, and then realizes the stalker had access to his phone? Come on, man. The fact that this predator somehow got his hands on the phone means he was literally inches away from this guy while he was sleeping. And now the story ends with mysterious sounds downstairs? Either this is the setup for the world's worst sequel, or this poor dude is about to become a statistic. The scariest part? This could happen to literally anyone who goes camping alone. But if you think that story was intense, wait until you hear what happens when family trauma becomes something much more sinister. I spent my whole life vowing not to be my father. Now my daughter is starting to look at me with the same fear I used to have for him. I have a wife and a 7-year-old daughter. I love them more than anything. Every morning I make my daughter pancakes and I let her put on way too much syrup. Every evening I kiss my wife and tell her about my boring day at the office. I am a normal, boring, loving husband and father, and I have built this life, brick by boring brick, as a fortress against the man I came from. And I want you to know that my entire existence is a reaction to him, and my greatest fear is that one day I will become my father. And now I think it's happening. My father was a hard man. He came from a long line of hard men who worked with their hands and believed the all existence will bend the knee to them by mere force. He worked in construction, and he carried the hardness of his work into our home. Our house was his property. My mother and me were his property too. He told us this often. "You belong to me," he'd say, his voice a low, rumbling threat. "This family, this bloodline, it will not be weak." To him, pain is the way to bend anything to your will. When I was 8, I got a B+ on a math test. He took off his belt, and the lesson I learned that night had nothing to do with long division. It was about the sting of leather on skin, the hot shame, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, and to be frank, I never got another B+. When I was 12, I wanted to quit the soccer team. I wasn't the best player, and the coach was a screamer just like him. My father's response was simple. He locked the pantry and the refrigerator. "The strong eat," he said, sitting at the dinner table, eating his own steak while I watched. "The weak learn to be strong." I didn't eat for 2 days. I didn't quit the team. My mother tried. In the beginning, she was a buffer, a soft place to land. She'd tend to my bruises, sneak me food when he was out, but years of his cruelty eroded her. She became quiet, jumpy, a ghost in her own home. The beatings weren't just for me. A dish dropped, dinner 5 minutes late, a glance he misinterpreted as defiance. Anything was a reason? I'd lie in my bed at night, listening to the muffled thumps from their bedroom, my hands clenched into fists under the covers, hating him with a purity that felt holy, hating him for his cruelty and hating her, just a little for enduring it. When I was 16, she left. She packed a single bag while he was at work and just disappeared. She didn't leave a note. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't look back, not even for the son she was leaving alone with the monster. I can't blame her. Not really. You can only live in a war zone for so long before you flee. But her absence created a vacuum, and his attention fell solely on me, and the forging intensified. The day I turned 21, I left too. I walked out with a backpack and $200 to my name. He stood on the porch, his arms crossed over his thick chest. He didn't try to stop me. "The world will break you," he said, his voice flat, "and you'll come crawling back. You're my son. You can't escape what you are." I didn't look back. I swore to myself that day that he was wrong. I'd not be him. I would not be him. I would be kind. I would be gentle. I would build a life so full of love and warmth that it would burn away his shadow. And for 10 years, I thought I had succeeded. I met a wonderful woman. We got married. We had a beautiful daughter. I built my fortress. I was safe. Then 3 weeks ago, the call came. It was a hospice nurse. Her voice was, detached. My father was dying. He had lung cancer, and it was aggressive and fast. He didn't have much time, and he was asking for me. "It's his final wish," she said. My decision was absolute. No. Good. Let him die alone. Let him face his end without the son he tried to break. Let him rot. The hatred, which I had thought I'd buried, was still there, hot and alive. I told my wife I wasn't going. I saw the look on her face. It was not a judgment, but a deep, sad understanding. "I know what he did to you," she said softly, taking my hand. "And you don't owe him a thing. But our daughter, she's never met her grandfather. Maybe this is the only chance she'll ever have. Not for him. For her. So one day she can know where half of her comes from." She paused. "And maybe for you, too. So you can see him as just a dying old man. So you can finally let him go." Her kindness is my greatest weakness. She was right. I was doing it for her and for our little girl. I was doing it to prove once and for all that I was not my father. A kind man sees his dying parent no matter what they'd done. The hospice was a quiet, sterile place that smelled of bleach and fading hope. He was in a private room. When I walked in, I barely recognized him. The man who had been a titan of muscle and rage, a roaring fire that had consumed my childhood, was now just a pile of sticks under a thin white blanket. His skin was yellow and translucent, his breathing a shallow, wet rattle. All the strength, all the power was gone. All that was left was the hardness in his eyes. He saw me, and a flicker of something passed over his face. Not joy, not relief, something else. Recognition. "Amy" was all I could manage. He coughed, a dry, rattling sound. "The girl," he rasped, his voice a ghost of its former power. "Is she strong?" "She's happy," I said, my voice cold. He held my gaze. Not the same thing. He was quiet for a long time, his eyes searching my face. Then he said the words I never thought I'd hear. "I'm sorry." The words hung in the air, heavy and strange. I waited. For the excuses. For the justifications. They didn't come. "I'm sorry," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper, "for what I did, and for what will happen." "What does that mean?" I asked, a strange knot of dread tightening in my stomach. "What's going to happen?" He tried to smile, but it was just a grimace of pain. He reached out a trembling, skeletal hand and gripped my wrist. His skin was cold, but his grip had a shocking, wiry strength. "It's a full circle, son," he whispered, his eyes boring into mine. "We all end as we began. It's just the way of things." And that was it. His eyes lost their focus. The hand gripping my wrist went limp. He made a long, final rattle from his chest, and then he was still. He was gone. The funeral was a small, awkward affair. A few of his old work buddies, a distant cousin. I said the words you're supposed to say. I accepted the condolences. And then I went home, feeling empty. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel closure. I just felt hollow. The first week was normal. But then I started to notice things. Small things. It started with my hand. I was washing dishes, and I noticed a strange, dry patch on the back of my hand. I looked closer. It wasn't just dry skin. It was a fine, web-like pattern of cracks, like a drying riverbed. I put lotion on it, but it didn't help. The next day, the patch was larger. Then, it was my eyes. I've always had my mother's eyes, a light, warm hazel. One morning, I was brushing my teeth, and I looked in the mirror and I froze. My eyes weren't hazel anymore. They were a cold, steely, unforgiving gray. They were my father's eyes. I stumbled back from the sink, my heart pounding. It was a trick of the light. It had to be. I spent the next hour flicking the bathroom light on and off, moving to different rooms, staring at my reflection in windows and spoons. It wasn't a trick. They were gray. They were his. My temper started to fray. I was always a patient man, but I found myself snapping. My wife asked me a simple question about a bill, and I bit her head off. My daughter spilled her juice, and I yelled at her, my voice so sharp and loud it made her cry. The moment the words were out of my mouth, I was horrified. I would apologize, profusely. I'd hug them, tell them I was sorry, that I was just tired, stressed from my father's death. They were forgiving. But it kept happening. This core of cold, hard anger was growing inside me, an invasive weed in the garden of the life I'd so carefully cultivated. The breaking point, the moment that sent me here to you, happened last night. My daughter brought home a drawing from school. It was a picture of our family. Me, my wife, her. She'd gotten a gold star on it. She was so proud. I told her it was wonderful. Then she showed me a math worksheet from her backpack. She'd gotten 2 questions wrong. Something inside me snapped. The disappointment I felt was irrational, outsized, and it was not my own. It was his. I heard myself speaking, but the voice felt like it was coming from someone else. "This is not good enough," I said, my voice low and cold. I tapped the paper, my finger jabbing at the red X's. 2 wrong? 2. I don't raise daughters who make mistakes. I don't allow for weakness. You will be the best. You will not fail. You will be made in my image. The words hung in the air, echoing in the quiet kitchen. My daughter's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. My wife just stared at me, her face a mask of shock and a dawning, terrible fear. And I stared back, horrified, because I had just spoken my father's creed. The poison I had spent my entire life running from had just poured from my own lips. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. I looked in the mirror. My father's gray eyes stared back at me, full of a cold fire. The cracks on my hand had spread up my arm, a network of fine, gray lines. In my hairline was receding, thinning at the crown in the exact pattern as his. It's a full circle. We end as we began. I'm so scared. I'm scared of what I'm becoming. Most of all, I'm terrified of what I'll do to my family when there's nothing left of me. I look at my daughter and I see the fear in her eyes when I walk into a room, and that's how I know the forging has already begun. Please, is there anyone out there who knows what this is? A curse? A possession? Is there a way to fight it? A way to stop this circle from completing? I built a fortress of love to keep him out, but he was inside me all along. He's finally breaking through the walls. This one genuinely gave me chills, guys. The idea that we might be doomed to repeat our parents' worst traits is terrifying enough, but this sounds like some supernatural curse bullshit. I mean, your eyes changing color, your hairline shifting to match your dead father's. Either this guy is having the world's most elaborate psychological breakdown, or there's something genuinely paranormal happening here. What really gets me is that his daughter is already starting to fear him. That's the real horror. Generation after generation of trauma, and now it's literally transforming him physically. Alright guys, those were some seriously disturbing stories tonight. The camping one hits different because it's so plausible. There really are dangerous people lurking in remote places. But that second story about the father's curse, that's the kind of psychological horror that stays with you. Let me know in the comments which story freaked you out more, and if you've ever experienced anything similar. Don't forget to like this video if it gave you the creeps, and subscribe for more terrifying true stories. Until next time, stay safe out there, and maybe think twice before going camping alone. This is Dorian, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.